10,000 Reasons is a gorgeous worship song that's very popular today. Let me start by playing through the song so you hear how it goes, and then we're going to break it down and give you some ideas for improvising on it. In this song, there are more chords to analyze and to understand. In Amazing Grace, our previous lesson, we had just 3, and they were all chords from the major mode. Here, we're going to be taking a look at some other types of chords. So this is a great exercise and a great introduction to some more chord theory. So let's take a look at the chords that we're going to be using in this song. So once again, you can construct a chord also by knowing the first 5 notes of that scale. So from C, this is the 3rd note, this is the 5th note of the C major scale. C major. G major, we've seen a G major chord before. Again, looking for G, 1st note, 3rd note, and the 5th note. Okay? The next chord that's going to be used a lot in the song is a D major / F sharp. What does that mean? We touched on this briefly in the previous lesson series. Let's take a look at the D major chord first. Now, remember how we constructed it from the first to the middle note? Whole note, and then another whole step, and then another whole step. Now, watch carefully. Half, half. Half step plus half step equals a whole step. Here, there is no black key. So here, half goes to here, and the next half step goes to the next black key. So that middle note is actually F sharp. Okay? And from here to the top, whole step, and generally a half step, and then one more whole step. So 3½ steps to the top. All right? That is a D major chord in root position. What they want is a D major chord, but with the F on the bottom. Okay? So instead of playing this, you would play this. You see how I shifted the chord so that the D moves to the top? The other 2 notes stay the same, but now the F sharp, is on the bottom instead of the D. So this is a D / F sharp chord. Okay? The next chord is an E minor chord. All right? So an E minor chord is constructed of a whole step and a half step. Okay, so it's different already from a major chord. Remember, a major chord has 2 whole steps to the middle note. Here, whole step, half step. So it's a slightly smaller interval or space from the bottom to the middle note here for an E minor chord. Okay? And for the top note, it's the same distance as a major chord. Whole, whole, half, whole. 3½ steps. Okay? Or the 5th step in the scale of an E minor scale. All right, so it's going to be very useful for you to understand how major and minor scales and chords work. So here's an E minor chord. Our next chord is an interesting chord. It's a D suspended 4th. Okay, or the abbreviation is D sus. Okay, a sus is an abbreviation for suspended because we have this note that is suspended through and generally gets resolved immediately after. Okay, it's kind of a cool effect. You hear that tension, and then that's what the suspended figure is implying. Okay, so how do we make a D sus? take the fourth note of the scale. Here's a D major scale. Here's the fourth note, and then you add that with the fifth note. So instead of a D major, remember how we made that? This would be a D sus. And a D sus almost always goes or resolves. The suspension resolves to a D major, okay? All right. So D sus is pretty easy to find. It's just these two notes on top together with a fourth from the bottom to the top here. Excuse me, fourth from the bottom to the middle here. The opening of this song kind of already begins harmonized. It's a very beautiful opening here. We have a C major with the melody, and then you resolve to a G major here. Here, D major with F sharp on the bottom. Now the opening is purposely very simple, very reverent, so you don't need to add a whole lot of extra notes. If you want to keep it very simple, that would sound just fine. Now here's our D sus, which I can take with my right hand, and it resolves to that D major chord over here. All right, melody comes in, and this would be a great way for you to practice harmonizing with the chords. Here's a C major. With the tie, you basically want to put a chord every time you see a chord symbol. C major. Now see, here's a tricky progression. We have C major, D major, then E minor. So try to combine all of those. D major. Here, C with the G on the bottom will be taken with your left hand, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? Good, let's just put that much together with your left hand. After you have your right hand harmonizations kind of worked out, then at the very least, play the notes that are indicated by the chords. So for example here, C for C major, G for G major. Now here D with an F sharp on the bottom. That's why we played that on the bottom here. E minor, D sus, and that will mean the D is on the bottom somewhere. Okay? So again, look for harmonies to fill with the right hand and the left hand. And for the time being, try to see if you can just get comfortable finding the chords in both hands. And filling up as many notes as you can between the hands with the harmonies that are indicated. All right, now in this middle section, there's some opportunities to get things moving a little bit. You can play the opening perhaps as a very simple block. You know, say here's the block chords. In the middle, see what I'm doing? Now I'm going to try to simulate a little bit of the rhythm of the band that might be playing underneath the melody. The way to do that is to add some extra eighth notes and some syncopations. And syncopations are simply notes that fall in between the beats. So, see what I'm doing? So again, I'm just looking for opportunities to put little notes in between and sometimes before the beat. The octave break is a great technique. Here, usually there's an instrumental kind of a rhythm, either the drum beat or the bass drum kind of gets hit over here, but you can use this opportunity to play pieces of the same harmony you just left. Or just play just an outline of it. So this is a great piece for you to practice finding those chords, filling it in with interesting rhythms. And again, a lot of it will be your ear feeling where you want to go. So I really recommend that you listen to a recording of this song, play it through for yourself, and again, try to make it different every time you play this song. Have fun.